In 2017, a simple click on Update Later nearly brought hospitals, governments, and businesses around the world to their knees. What if I showed you how a forgotten flaw, an NSA cyberweapon, and thousands of unpatched PCs created the perfect storm? Before the name WannaCry was etched into human memory, the world was already walking towards it, eyes open but minds distracted. Servers hum, blue and white screens cast their cold light over cities plunged into night. Systems run, hospitals heal, factories produce, and under this surface of quiet efficiency, something is brewing, slowly, stubbornly, like a tide rising without a sound. For a new form of plundering already exists in the invisible depths of the network. A robbery without knives, guns, or cries. Gold is no longer stolen from safes, but the very memories of men, their data, their files, their proofs of existence. In the mid-2000s, strange names begin to appear in technical reports, like distant flashes of lightning, GP code, and others. Files disappear behind an encrypted wall. A message appears. It demands money to open the door. It's the ransom. It's the warning. The first ransomwares are clumsy, brutal, sometimes easy to bypass. But they are the harbingers of an era. From 2013, they become more refined. CryptoLocker, CryptoWall, strike individuals, small businesses, then larger ones. Attackers no longer just lock screens. They hold files hostage. They seal photos, contracts, archives in digital safes, which can only be unlocked by a mathematical key. Encryption becomes their weapon. No longer the shield scholars have shaped to protect secrets, but an invisible chain that closes around documents. The names RSA, AES, leave laboratories to become the cold blade of these new pirates. Now, without the private key, there is no turning back. Victims realize this too late, in front of files turned silent, years of work reduced to an unreadable mass. To get paid, a discrete path is needed. Money must flow facelessly. Then, other forces come into play. Bitcoin, still young, still mysterious, joins the game. Criminals adopt this currency without banks or borders. They hide their identity behind character strings, pseudonymous addresses lost in the ocean of the blockchain. Now, the ransomers demand their tribute in bitcoins. They promise the key in exchange for a few units of this currency that never sleeps. Campaigns multiply. Inboxes fill with trap messages. Links, attachments, promises, imaginary invoices. One click is enough. The malady spreads. But gradually, attackers discover an even quieter way. Hidden flaws at the core of software. Poorly closed doors in protocols that connect machines to each other. Exploit kits deploy on infected sites, test browsers, probe defenses, strike when a breach appears. The great sentinels of cybersecurity observe this rise. Kaspersky, Symantec, Trend Micro. Others note the plague's progression. Numbers increase. Campaigns refine. Europol, Interpol publish reports. They speak of ransomware as an emerging threat, then a major one. Yet, in offices, ministries, boardrooms, these warnings sometimes resonate like distant noises. They are read, they are filed, they move on to something else. Meanwhile, another force, older, more secretive, works in the shadows. In the windowless corridors of the American National Security Agency, eyes do not turn to ransoms demanded of small businesses, but to mastering the entire digital terrain. The NSA watches over the world's signals. It listens, observes, builds tools to penetrate adversary systems. It's their role, their mission, their burden. The agency's engineers hunt for flaws like hunters pursue prey. One day, on a date that will never be clearly revealed, they stumble upon a vulnerability buried deep within Microsoft Windows, in an old file-sharing mechanism called SMB v1. A critical weakness, vast, deep, spanning multiple versions of the system. They immediately see the scope of their discovery. They do not report it. They keep it. They polish it. They make it a weapon. They give it a name, Eternal Blue. Behind those almost poetic syllables lies a formidable power. By sending a simple packet to port 445 of a vulnerable machine, the attacker can take control. Remotely. Without a password. Without a click. Engineers transform the flaw into an operational, reliable, reusable exploit, intended for offensive operations by the American state. Meanwhile, the world relies on Windows as one relies on an invisible infrastructure. Everywhere, in capitals and villages, in glass towers and brick hospitals, Windows reigns. On workstations, on servers, in machine rooms devoid of natural light. Administrations deploy it on a large scale. Businesses thrive on it. Critical infrastructures, at times, entrust their digital nerves to it. Windows XP, released at the beginning of the century, remains firmly anchored in this landscape.
In civil registry offices, in train stations, in medical machines, XP screens are still there. Windows 7, more recent. Windows Server 2003 and 2008 hold entire sections of internal networks. But these systems often no longer receive the necessary care. Updates are postponed, deemed risky, too costly, too complex. In April 2014, Microsoft announces the end of standard support for Windows XP. The message is clear. No more free security patches for the general public. Only some clients, paying a heavy tribute, benefit from extended support. Yet thousands, tens of thousands of XP machines continue to run. In hospitals, systems controlling scanners and imaging equipment remain frozen on these old systems. Industrial companies, public services delay migration, fear downtime, lack budget. Audits note this, stating the bleak facts in black and white. In the United Kingdom, the National Audit Office highlights the massive persistence of obsolete systems within the National Health Service. People know. They write. They publish. But time passes, and the machines remain. They gradually become ruins still inhabited. Houses whose frames creak, but where people continue to live. Thus, a paradox sets in. The entire world depends on the same foundation, Windows, coupled with ancient protocols like SMB v1. This foundation is cracked, but still in use. An intelligence agency, on the other hand, has the exact map of one of those cracks, perhaps the most dangerous one. It keeps it secret. Between these two forces, no words are exchanged. It's the silent accumulation of risks. Then comes a first rupture. In August 2016, an anonymous voice calling itself the Shadow Brokers emerges on the internet. A band of ghosts, digital pirates, boasting of having gotten hold of the tools of another mysterious group, Equation Group, which many researchers associate with the NSA. They post messages on Tumblr, GitHub, Twitter,
leaving encrypted archives lying around like abandoned chests. At first, many are skeptical. But the shadow brokers persist. They put some treasures up for sale, publish others for free. Between 2016 and the beginning of 2017, several batches of exploits emerge from the shadows. Among them, hide weapons designed to breach the defenses of routers, firewalls, servers. More and more researchers examine these leaks. They recognize the technical signature, the sophistication, the coherence of the whole. Everything points to a state origin. Finally, on April 14, 2017, a new batch falls onto the world's stage. The shadow brokers publish a complete arsenal, open, downloadable by anyone who knows where to look. In this toxic treasure lies Eternal Blue, accompanied by other SMB exploits like Eternal Romance. In a matter of hours, researchers from Kaspersky, Symantec, FireEye, and others open these files, test them, dissect them. They confirm these exploits work. They effortlessly breach unpatched versions of Windows. Thus, the weapon forged in the secret rooms of an intelligence agency finds itself naked in the middle of the public square. States see it. Criminals see it. Aspiring hackers see it. It will never disappear. It circulates from disk to disk, forum to forum. It becomes, by the sheer power of replication, a global threat. But a detail changes everything. A month earlier, on March 14, 2017, Microsoft publishes a security bulletin, MS-17010. This text, dry, technical, announces the correction of several SMB v1 vulnerabilities, including the one to be designated as CVE 2017-0144, the very core of Eternal Blue. For supported versions of Windows, Vista, 7, 8.1, 10, Server 2008, 2012, 2016, the remedy exists. It simply needs to be applied. Microsoft recommends installing these patches as soon as possible to disable, if feasible, the old SMB v1, to take the threat seriously. In its official channels, in specialized blogs, the company calls for action. Yet, in the harsh reality of organizations, not everything follows. IT managers juggle constraints. Applying a patch on a massive fleet takes time. Some fear that the update will break old applications. Others lack effective centralized tools. Many are simply not aware of the real urgency. And then, there is the silent mass of systems already abandoned by official support. Windows XP, Windows Server 2003. For them, no public patch is initially offered. A few privileged clients receive tailor-made patches, but the vast majority remains defenseless. Thus, when Eternal Blue leaves the NSA's fortress to find itself in everyone's hands, the world presents a contrasting face. Millions of machines are vulnerable. Some could be protected by MS-17010, but are not yet. Others, too old, don't even have this option. The internal networks of many hospitals, administrations, and companies are vast, barely segmented, like immense plains without barriers. If a threat enters, it can run far. Reports before 2017 nevertheless keep describing this situation.
The delays in applying patches are evident, especially in the public sector. In health, where every service interruption is dreaded. The British National Audit Office describes, with supporting figures, thousands of XP stations within the NHS until 2016-2017. Other countries tell the same story with different words.
critical systems remain stuck to old technologies, out of habit, constraint, or lack of means. In the corridors of national cybersecurity agencies, alerts multiply. The NCSC in the United Kingdom, ANSI in France, DHS, and US CERT in the United States, and others, publish bulletins. They emphasize the risks linked to SMBv1 and unpatched systems. They recommend disabling this protocol when it is no longer essential and applying MS-17-010 without delay. They see in the leak of NSA exploits a new urgency, for already, by April 2017, independent researchers demonstrate how easily Eternal Blue can be reused. They publish analyses, proofs of concept, show that with a little effort, any marginalized code can latch onto this exploit like a powerful engine. National certs, after the publication of the shadow broker's tools, issue warnings. These weapons can be integrated into malware, worms, ransomware within weeks. However, in company servers, in hospital corridors, in administrative networks, life goes on as if nothing happened. They talk about budgets, projects, meetings. The name Eternal Blue is known in technical circles, but for most decision-makers, it's just another term in a sea of obscure words. Before May 2017, no major ransomware campaign exploits this flaw on a large scale. Only a few tests, a few academic demonstrations circulate. On one side, a digital world saturated with Windows systems, large parts remain vulnerable, obsolete, poorly segmented, poorly patched. Health, transport, energy infrastructures, all interconnected by old protocols like SMBv1, rarely compartmentalized, ready to propagate in chain anything that crosses their gates. Between the two, alerts, reports, patches published but not deployed everywhere. Slow decisions, compromises. Screens still displaying the Windows XP logo like a banner from another era. A month passes between the public leak of Eternal Blue and the impending disaster. A month during which the world could protect itself more, but only does so partially. The stage is set. Structural flaws are in place, intertwined like fibers of a rope waiting to snap. Ransomware has paved the way, demonstrated the profitability of digital hostage-taking. Global infrastructures have entrusted their fate to a single imperfect foundation. An agency kept a dangerous secret for too long. A group of fugitives threw it to the four winds. All that is missing is an actor to link these scattered elements. To take the Eternal Blue exploit, chain it to a ransom code, equip it with a blind will to propagate. Someone, somewhere, is already assembling the pieces. The date is approaching. The clocks are turning towards May 12th, 2017.